Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. And thanks for joining CKAN Monthly live. Let's bring it back to the positive side. So I'd like to start by saying Happy New Year. May you have a happy and healthy New Year. Also, I would like to say happy birthday to the CKAN project. As you know, yesterday CKAN turned 15. And we are really excited that CKAN continues to evolve. It continues to evolve thanks to the active participation and contribution of many people, developers, vendors, user communities. Also, I'd like to make an announcement on behalf of the CKAN technical team. Some of the people are here. New patch releases are available now. That fix important bugs and security issues, so users are encouraged to upgrade to the latest patch release as soon as possible. Now, today we'll be talking about the Hale Hearty project. It's a CKAN-based knowledge base which aims to make health and well-being information more easily accessible to the public and to improve the health and well-being of people living in Ireland. The knowledge base is available as open data on the National Open Data Portal, data.gov.ie. Our speakers, Aishling Hyland, Digital Strategy Manager at Fingal County Council, Katharine Cooney, Data Analyst at Darlings, and Mario Romera, Software Developer at Darlings. They will give us an overview of the project. They'll talk about the data side, the dev side, the why and the how, but before I give them the opportunity to present themselves, just a few housekeeping items. The agenda for today's meetup will be an introduction round where our speakers will be able to introduce themselves and will tell us a few words about their organizations. And this will be followed by their presentation. After the presentation, we usually have a Q&A session. I will, while you have the presentation, I'll make sure we can actually have the Q&A session where we'll open the floor for questions. I guess raising a hand will work, or if everything is okay with the chat, dropping questions in the chat also will be fine. As always, I encourage you to open the meeting doc and drop your name, affiliation, what brings you to CKAN. Also, if you have some suggestions for topics, it will be great to have your input. Now is the perfect time for suggestions because we are planning future discussions ahead. So it will help us to frame the discussions. And just to flag to people that the meeting is being recorded. So there will be a recording uploaded to our YouTube channel. And with that being said, over to our speakers. Mario, you can share your screen. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let me know if everything is smooth.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aishling Hyland. I'm Digital Strategy Manager with Fingal County Council. Just for those of you who don't know, Fingal County Council is a local authority or municipality, and we cover the area North County Dublin. And when it comes to open data, Fingal has been a leader in that field, having the very first open data site in Ireland. Next slide there, please, Mario. So for the Hale Hearty project, Hale Hearty is an EU-funded project that aims to improve access to health and wellbeing information. The project is managed by the Open Data Unit in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, and the project partners are the Central Statistics Office, Department of Health, Dairy Links, Irish Data Cloud Cluster, and ourselves, Fingal County Council. The outcome of the project will be a knowledge base, and you'll hear about that later from Mario and from Katharine for health and wellbeing information, and an app that will demonstrate the potential uses of that knowledge base. But I'm going to focus on the development of the user personas for this knowledge base. So who are the users? Next slide. Yes, so the overall objective of the knowledge base is to provide health and wellbeing information at a granular level that can provide analysis and insights and insight action for people. Next slide. Thank you. And this involves loads of different types of data sets from the project partners that I spoke about earlier, and the and external providers as well. Next slide, please. And here is just an overview of our roadmap. So I'm going to focus on the user scenarios and definition, but also we have data preparation, development of the knowledge base itself. The Hale Hearty app is another phase in the roadmap, and then analysing the impact of all of the stages. Next slide. So when we looked at who our users were of the Hale Hearty knowledge base, we were really broad in our thinking. We were thinking about families, schools, data scientists, public sector employees, healthcare workers. You can go to the next slide. And we really needed to refine our focus. Next slide there, please. So through a design thinking process, we carried out workshops, surveys, focus group questionnaires to try and identify who we want the users to be of the Hale Hearty knowledge base. What do they need? What are their frustrations? And what can the knowledge base kind of solve for them? So we took part in many workshops and surveys and gathered an awful lot of feedback into what people wanted the knowledge base to do. Next slide. So in that process, we developed personas, user personas of the knowledge base. This included families, students, data scientists, public sector employees, and healthcare workers. Next slide. This is an example of one of the user personas that we identified. It's the Murphy family. So you look here, this is, I suppose, feedback from all those different sources. We've got their goals, their main tasks, characteristics. It really gives an overview of what their needs and wants are. Next slide there, Mario. And once we had developed the user personas, we went into even, I suppose, greater detail in what their point of view statements were, so what their frustrations were, what they wanted access to in the realm of health and wellbeing in this kind of board. Next slide there. I'm just going to focus on these three user personas. So these were the user personas we identified in the end. So we've split them up into general user, data user, and health user, and I'm just going to run through these. So the general user of the health and wellbeing knowledge base is the Murphy family and Maya. So the Murphy family, they need a way to access up-to-date health and wellbeing information for their local area. So they're really looking for local recreational activities, events, local health services. So where's the local football playing pitch? Where's the local GP, hospital appointment hours? They need access to lots of geolocated data and reliable data that's really easy for them to get because they're not a technical user. Maya is similar again, that's why she's in the general user, but she is accessing this information as a public sector employee, but she doesn't have a data science background. So she needs access to the latest summarized comparative local, regional and national health and wellbeing information for her research purposes so that she can inform her colleagues at a public and general health and wellbeing matters. So that's a general user of the knowledge base. And our other user there is the data user. We've named him Mario. So he needs to have a way to access the raw data of the knowledge base. He needs to have access to the granular level data. He also wants to have access to historic data so that he can access that and manipulate the data and use it for his work purposes. He needs access to the appropriate metadata as well. So it's really important that the access to raw data for him. The health user is something that we didn't proceed with, as the scope of the health user was just beyond the scope of the project. I don't know, Mario, if you want to unshare and try and reshare there.
I'll just log the meeting, so I will suspend participant activities, and let's see if this is going to help. Mario is still a co-host, and he can share the screen, and the rest of the speakers are allowed to unmute themselves.
Okay. So that's a very brief summary of our users. The ones we focused on for the development of the Hale Hearty knowledge base is that general user, so access to the geolocated recreational facilities. When it comes to local authorities, that would have been our biggest input into the project. And local health services as well. So that general user, that's the needs we try to address for this project. And then the data user, Mario, their access to the raw, historical, very granular, detailed data and metadata. So that's just a very brief overview of the user personas, and I'm going to hand over now to Katharine, who's going to give more detailed information on the knowledge base itself. Thanks.
Quick intro to Deralinks. What we do facilitating data publication. So we work with various organizations to help them publish, share, and manage and govern data, and we, with that, make a significant development impact. Our main product is data.gov.ie, a CKAN-based data portal. We also do a lot of work with API development to provide real-time data access. We've worked on a lot of web applications, data analytics projects, and we also do data audits and work with companies on their data strategy and data management. Thanks, Mario. Next slide. Okay, so we work with the World Bank. We have several projects, completed projects, and also a lot on the go at the moment as well with the World Bank. We work with non-governmental organizations. We work with the national open and data sharing programs, in particular the Irish National Open Data Program, data.gov.ie, and we support that and host that, and the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer. We also work with public service bodies in Ireland, so eHealth Ireland, which is the Child and Family Agency. In smart cities, we work very closely and again support Smart Dublin, which is an umbrella group for the 4 Dublin local authorities, and the Cork Smart Gateway. And we work on EU programs. So one that I've personally been involved in, the Pressure Lodge project, which is linguistic linked to open data. And of course, this one, Hale Hearty, which I'm going to talk about. So I'm just going to talk about the data sources and how we went about gathering that data. So a lot of this information, as you're going to see, is from local authorities, in particular the Dublin local authorities. We, as I said, we work closely with Smart Dublin, and we've had an awful lot of help on this project from the 4 local authorities in providing both updating data that may have been out of date and also providing new health and wellbeing related data. The other sources of information, the Central Statistical Office. There's a lot of information there from censuses and from their surveys. All of this data was available through the National Open Data Portal. We've also included some health data, although this is limited. And this is, to be honest, this is an area that we would like to expand, but it just hasn't been possible at this phase of the project. Next slide, please. So the methodology, identification of data sets. So we did a big data audit to identify data that would be suitable and look at whether it was, as I said, whether it was up to date and whether we could get that data across various, in particular, Dublin local authorities. So we then use the CKAN groups feature to harvest the data from the National Open Data Portal. And we developed a categorisation methodology using the metadata. Thanks. Next slide. So we've used existing lists, schema.org, OpenActive.io, and the LGMA, Local Government Management Authority catalogue, to generate categories, and then just use the metadata and match that metadata with some weighting and synonyms to generate categories and match the data to the categories, just to make sure that this process is sustainable and the categorization is automated. Thanks. Next slide. So basically the way it works is the data is published from those data sources onto the open data, the Irish Open Data Portal, data.gov.ie. We then use the groups feature to harvest it to the Hale Hearty catalogue, and it is then queried and displayed on the knowledge base. Thanks. So just, I mean, we're going to have a demo of this functionality for Mario in a minute, but just the main points of this functionality are that it's a location-based search, which is nice and intuitive for users. The data is presented on a map. It's a bit, there's a filter by category available, but in particular, there's a text-based filter of the contents of the data set. So it's not just the metadata that's being searched, so the headings of the columns are being searched, but it's actually the contents of the column that will be searched. Also the interface offers links to the original data sources, so you can always go back to where that data, where your data point came from, and we have generated some graphs from CSO, Central Statistical Office data, and we present those on the right-hand side. And the beauty of this really is that it's not necessarily only health and well-being data that could be presented here. It could be, for example, transport data, it could be environment data. It's applicable to any set of data. Thanks. I'll hand over to Mario now, who's going to give you a demo.
Thank you, Catherine. So I will do a short demo of the final product that we developed for this project, and also give a brief explanation on the technical side on how we did it, the steps we took to achieve the goal. So this is the UI that we developed for the project. On the left side, the user can input the query. On the right side, you can see the graphs and visualizations taken from the statistical data. And on the center is the map. So in order to use the map, the user has to select a location, origin. That can be done just by clicking on the map, or using the location filter, the browser location filter, or inputting a street or a postcode here. So I'm going to select Dublin city center street, Dame Street, and I will select the distance, 10 kilometers, the maximum distance that we allow. And soon you will see all the data we have in Dublin City. It's around 9,000 data points. And as you can see on the left, there is the categories Katharine talked about. So we have category recreation activities and amenities, and subcategories public facilities and subcategories, and also health wellbeing services and health center as category. So if the user selects one of these categories, let's click on cycling, the data on the map will get filtered, but also the graphs on the right will update to show related graphs to the filter selected. And we can apply multiple filters. So if I now select walking, for example, the graphs will get updated to walking related data. And we have plotted some more data on the Dublin outskirts. I will show you two examples of how to retrieve the data in this. And first example is going to be on the Dublin airport. So I'm going to select 2 kilometers distance. That's enough for this example. And let's say I want to find a Garda station. Garda is the Irish police station in the close to the airport. So if I type Garda and I click on show results, we get just 3 data points back. As you can see, they have different colors. Those colors relate to the category on the left panel. So this blue dot, it's coming from the Garda station's Fingal County Council dataset. And you can see that it's placed on the Garda station. So this is the Garda station of the airport, but there is also another 2 data points that we get retrieved, and they belong to the accessible parking spaces map from Fingal County Council as well. Those 2 get retrieved because in some part of their data, in some GeoJSON feature, property feature, or in a CSV row, they contain the keyword Garda. Both of them. And if I select the filter like police station, then these 2 accessible parking spaces will get removed, and we are left just with the Garda station in the Dublin airport. Another example I want to show you is related to a parking here. So I'm going to select 3 kilometers, just a bit more data. And you can see we retrieve like, well, plenty of data points. If we click on a park, we see that this is coming from the Parks and Open Spaces dataset. All the data that is in the pop-up, all this information, it's either, as I said before, a GeoJSON property from a feature or a CSV row. And let's say we want to find, we want to play soccer, and we want to find a soccer playing pitch in here. As you can see, there is a few polygons in this park, which all of them are playing pitches, and somewhere on the data, they contain the word soccer. In all of them, club type soccer. But also, we have some not playing pitches data, which is still falls into the inside the distance. This is a sports or recreation club, and the soccer keyword is in here. If I want to search for a GAA, Gaelic football, we can do it as well, and you see that we retrieve the opposite playing field. So in this park, there is a playing field for football and GAA. And also some sports and recreation clubs. If we select the grass pitches category, the sports and recreation clubs will get removed, and we are just left with the polygons representing the playing pitches. I also want to show you that apart from Dublin, we have some data points in other cities, like in Galway, around 200 data points in Galway. And also in Cork, almost the same amount, around 200 data points in Cork. So this is the UI that the users can use to play with the data. And I'm gonna give you a brief technical explanation on the steps we took to reach this point. So the technical goals we had here was to allow the users to search and filter spatial data, enable search and filtering on resources content, in this case, tabular data that it's in the data store, and provide a UI for users to search and play with the data. In order to achieve those goals, we had to take 3 steps mainly. First of all, we need to organize this new type of data. So we need to we need to configure Solr for indexing spatial data and the resource contents. We need to input the data into the Solr index. So we created indexers for the supported file formats, and then a way to query the data and return it to the user. So we created a view to serve the spatial data. Configuring Solr, we added three fields type, which effectively enable the spatial capabilities of Solr. All the documentation can be found on the first link. And we also created a new field containing every string value in a CSV row or in a JSON feature for results highlighting. The highlighting documentation can be found on the second link. So now that we configure Solr, we need a way to input the data from the original data source, a GeoJSON or a CSV, into the Solr index. Solr already provides a GeoJSON indexer or a way to index GeoJSON, but we wanted to populate our fields, so we created a custom indexer. It transforms a feature with its properties from the image you have on the left to a data dictionary on the right, and this data dictionary is then fit into the Solr index. But what happens if we have other special formats like KML or shapefile or any other special format? So we use OGR to OGR tool to convert the features between different file formats. So we convert the original file into GeoJSON, then we index the GeoJSON, and the data is available on the knowledge base. The documentation for OGR tool can be found on this link. Now the CSV indexing is very similar. We just turning every row of a CSV into a data dictionary, containing all the highlighting fields, and we feed it into Solr. But what happens if the CSV contains spatial data? So OGR to OGR tool comes in very handy here as well. It can convert a row into a feature, and we turn a CSV file into a GeoJSON, and then we index the GeoJSON, and the data is available in the knowledge base. Now that we have the data in the knowledge base, we need a way to expose it and to do the queries. And Solr has a filter function called geofield that allows to retrieve results based on a geospatial distance from a given point. So this effectively allows us to query spatial data, providing an origin, and a latitude and a longitude, and a distance in kilometers. The view that we create accepts those parameters plus a test query and returns a GeoJSON with all the matched features. The documentation for the geofield can be found in this link. So what a query will look like. So on the left, you have a post query to the dataset.geojson view with a few parameters, distance, origin, and keyword in this case. And on the right side, the view returns a GeoJSON with the matching properties, the matched features. Now that we have a way to return the data, what is left is to create a UI that I demo already and brings the user to play with it. So with this project, we aim to engage more users to use the open data and encourage the data publishers to improve their data, showing them the amazing things that can be done with this open data. The project is hosted in the National Data Portal, data.gov.ie/Hale Hearty. And last but not the least, we are hiring people. So if anybody is interested, you can have a look at our careers page. That will finish the demo. Thank you so much.
Oh, I was just, it wasn't my hand up. I was just applauding. It was a great presentation, very interesting. And I'd love to dig into that further and look at the code. Just really well done. No other comments than that.
Very much.
Thank you. Joe, you can go ahead.
Oh, I just was applauding too, and just seconding what Ian said. It's a well done project, and I, like Ian, look forward to looking at the code. It's really, really awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi all. I'd like to have more details about the use of CKAN in this project and some details about how it was used, because we see just the graphical interface, but we'd like to have further details of CKAN use and implementation in this project. Thanks.
Okay, I will answer that. So I'm going to share my screen as well. So we built a CKAN portal in which we harvest all the dataset that were selected on the selection process. It's a pretty standard CKAN portal with facet search, just a few more added categories, and all the data is stored in here. So when the map is doing a request to the dataset.geo JSON endpoint, it's been taken care or replayed by this CKAN instance. I don't know if that answers your question, but everything is happening on this CKAN instance in this Hale Hearty portal.
So there is a question in the Gitter channel from Aaron Couch.
Hi, thanks. Great presentation, as everyone else has said. I was interested to see that you chose solar as a search tool, and was wondering how that experience has gone and how you evaluated that versus Elasticsearch or another search engine.
So I think we use Solar across all our CKAN instance, and that's the one we are used to it. So as soon as we discover or we found the spatial capabilities, we test them and it served the purpose for this project. So we didn't try any alternatives. We just went straight for Solar and it worked for the project. I cannot compare you to the other options right now, because we didn't use them.
All right. You have thanks from Aaron in the Gitter chat. Ian, you can unmute yourself, Augusta as well, Andrea as well.
Yeah, so I did just have one question. I wonder how much work was involved in making sure that the data was clean enough to display this way. Was every single data set vetted or cleaned by one group of people, or how did you make sure that you could get this stuff displaying with this kind of quality?
So Katharine will answer that, but as you saw on one of the last slides on the presentation, one of the objectives was to engage the data publishers to improve their data as well. But Katharine can talk you about all the work doing the standardization or harmonization of the datasets. Katharine?
As mentioned, a lot of this data, especially the new data, came from the Dublin local authorities, and we work under the Smart Dublin umbrella on publication of data. So we're looking quite closely at any new data that was published. As Mario was mentioning, one advantage of this project is it's actually exposing more of the metadata and making it clear to those data publishers how important the accuracy of that metadata and descriptions and titles, etc., is, especially when you're working on a project like this. So yeah, it's kind of two aspects. We're making sure the data sources, we're looking at those data sources and making sure they are correct. But in general, Smart Dublin is a pretty good quality data source. Then if we see issues with the data via the map or the knowledge, the data catalog, we can then interact with the publishers and go back and get that data fixed. We generally would get them to fix the problems at source rather than us, doing an ETL kind of thing, because it's obviously better if they can then publish that data with the correct metadata, etc. Thanks.
Thank you. Augusto, you can go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Hello, I am Augusto. As everyone said, congratulations and for a great presentation and amazing project. Actually, I would like to know about the process of converting CSV to GeoJSON that Mario mentioned. Whose responsibility is that? I see that you harvest data from other organizations, and is that the responsibility of these organizations to make this mapping, or is the Hale Hearty portal you do it for them? How's it done?
It's on the Hale Hearty portal. The CSV indexer checks if there is any spatial data on the CSV, looking for a column name that contains north in, east in, or XY, or any other combination that long. And in case it's found, then it fits that into the OGR to OGR tool with a set of configurations, a set of parameters, and it can convert a CSV into a GeoJSON, keeping every column as a property of the feature.
Does that answer your question, Augusto?
Yes, that did answer my question. I was just wondering if that would scale when you have a lot of organizations publishing data, when you have to do that job of searching for fields to convert to GeoJSON at the central level. That I imagine that would be a lot of work to do it. But thank you.
All right, so if there are no more questions, I suggest we finish. So yeah, thanks to everyone and our speakers. It was really interesting presentation. You did great work, and thanks for sharing with the community.